painting, it's quite weird, right? Yeah. I like it. I need to talk about that. Yeah. Yes. Yes, this is a good point actually, to elaborate on. So control the stories and talk more about how the process. Yeah. Okay, we got 5 minutes. Yeah, we're on. For 6, actually 4 minutes now. Really good? Yeah. Alright. So, are we live? Yeah. I'll share that now. Okay, no, that's headache. So we need to move the table around.
I'll do that one.
Yeah. Mine, and live. Lovely. Yeah, and the mic as well, please. Where's the camera pointing? Yeah.
And the mic as well.
Put that there. I can't see that yet. So now it's say 5. Yeah, that was. Yeah, let me just share that.
Who's holding the mic?
Me, I hold the mic, but
Okay.
what? Before I...
Not straight away, not straight away. When we get started.
Are you going handheld?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look more at home with it like that. That's Benga. It's such a device, isn't it, that thing? It's like a gun.
This bit is actually a handle. I'll put a light on it. So it's like
Have you got yours? Put the camera like this. Hear us too. Others.
It's really good sound on all this time. The battery got enough sound in it. The battery. The zoom got enough.
Yeah. Two green bars is good.
What are you talking about, mate?
Our place is much better than your place. Our place is way better than your place. Therefore, our place gets to beat your place. Yeah. Okay? It's literally, that's what I said. Like I went to like this is kind of. Alright, I'm ready. You can hear us, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I can look at you. So let's get off.
So good evening everybody. Welcome to this live stream coming to you from the Dalston Den and featuring the brilliant artist Mo Al-Qaidi. So we've got the Moment Show with his art exhibition, Sorry About Your Liver Dude. So I think I better hand you over to him. Now at the end of the exhibition and the end of his talk, we're going to be taking any questions. So if you've got any questions while it's going on, write them in the comments section and we'll make sure Mo answers them at the end. Thanks for tuning in. Here you go, Mo.
So I'm here, right? Oh man, this is like, it doesn't get any easier. Like we did the whole session earlier. Hi everyone. We did the whole session earlier that was just full of everything like textbook. So, how are we doing?
We've got 2 people.
We've got 2 people. People should log in in like 1 minute. Just put the link on. Let's see the numbers. 3 now. Fabulous. We are famous. We got 3 viewers. Yeah. I actually can't see myself in the video there. Yeah. Am I meant to be talking now? Like, so how we start this again? So hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining in, and apologize if you've been in the first session for all of the delays. Bear with us. We just started doing this, and this is our pilot, and we're learning through the process of. I can see myself. That's fascinating. Thank you very much for understanding, and this is the last time I'm apologizing about it. So today I'm gonna try as much as I can to, show you my latest work, which is a series that I've been done over the last 3 months of the lockdown, which has started to describe how the ego of the artist make them create the art, so therefore is ego our drive to create the art. And that's pretty much my whole process that came, which I'll elaborate on later. So to start sort of the whole thing, it's called sort of I Live a Dude, which is actually have a funny story behind it. I'm not going to go over it now because it's too long. However, it was about this kind of idol that I had all of my childhood, Prometheus, who was a titan that represent for me and a lot of other people the reason why we're creative. He gave us knowledge, he gave us art, he gave us forethought, he gave us reasoning, he gave us conscience, he gave us the ability to learn, and he did that through a very nice story that I've been really fascinated from since I was a kid, which is the way how we became us. So I kind of like had a lot of kind of references that I can refer to in this process. However, I think to make it the easiest and the most dramatic and the most theatrical, there's references as Prometheus Bound, and there is Stephen Fry Mythos. And there was that bit of this kind of book that triggered all of this. It was when he was like describing how Zeus was very bored. And this came up with the first chapter, which is Zeus bored. I wanted to represent boredom and the kind of in a majestic way, if that makes sense. So in this kind of scene, Stephen Fry explained it in a really funny way. It's like, Zeus sitting down there, and Prometheus comes in and like, you look really kind of upset. And he was like, yeah, look at this world we built with all of the trees and animals and rivers and oceans. We need something to make it kind of a bit, more exciting, something between us and them. And that's when the whole idea that Prometheus comes in and say, you know what, okay, let me think about it. And here is the artist, right? Getting someone thought of something that they wanted, and they transform it to something new that never been there before, like a piece of canvas, and then suddenly have a lot of colors. My thoughts, zeros of my brain, right? And that's when we get to the second chapter. So to cut the story short, Prometheus takes the idea as an artist. And he comes up to make man, which is chapter 2. So he's sitting there in my head, in his lab. And I think Prometheus should be represented as a robot. I'm always been fascinated by robots. It's a challenging thing. I'm not going to talk about that either. But however, so I thought if Zeus wanted something to be created in his image, and actually Prometheus is not the same race. Zeus is Olympian and Prometheus is Titan. And so maybe Prometheus is a robot. So it is Prometheus making man. And in this process, he's like molding us, the whole story from the myth, say that, we're created by the spit of Zeus, the breath of Athena, the mud from Gaia. However, the story happened and he created a lot of versions of us, with all colors, pink, blue, red, yellow. But then Zeus knew that he done it, and he runs in, and if you work with clay and stuff like that, it takes a long process, a lot of time to dry. So Prometheus lining up his kind of creation as an artist, and Zeus jumping in was he runs in, and in his kind of clumsiness, he steps on a few of the drying clay of the creation of Prometheus. And Prometheus, like, Stephen Fry, I called him, we were like, oh no, not the blue one, I like it. However, he stepped in the blue one, so unfortunately we don't have any blue humans around there. But that's the way of it. And actually I did a few research because I wanted to add, more details because I never really have enough of a stop button. So this is actually kind of a robotical equation for the arm movement. So I thought that will cement the idea that actually Prometheus creation was art. And got again from the Greek mythology story, but we're gonna get to a few more bits of it. And here, when the whole idea of Prometheus and the creation of man, all of that kind of stuff goes up to the really dramatic side. And I don't think actually there is a good explanation for it, of why it happened, apart from that Prometheus is us as humans, trying to understand that enough of believing that everything get handed to us, we need to make it, and the reason for that is fire, so we create the whole story of Prometheus. And to justify this part, that when we had fire, we became who we are, we said that Prometheus is a rebellion. He just like rebelled against Zeus and gave us the kind of fire. And that's when we started to grow, build up cities, and forge weapons, and attack everyone. And before that, there was another story of Zeus' punishment. But again, I'm not going to go there, because I talk about it too much. And then that's when we come to the punishment. And the punishment for me is a very interesting one, because we don't know how much I repeated that many. To just come to that last piece that I'm happy to present to you. The punishment for Prometheus was quite a celebration for me, because it sounds really cruel, but I mean it in the best way ever. So his punishment is, so he got punished for being forethoughtful and for supporting other creatures that he created as an artist. He loved them so much, so he wanted the best for them. And the people and the managers of his organization, which is Olympia, in this kind of practice, thought, no, these people that we actually wanted to entertain us don't deserve to have that kind of knowledge. So in this kind of one, he's defining everything around. He's like, no, screw you, mate. You're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to make me do what I do as an artist and tell me that I need to look that way. You chose me because you know I'm blessed in my creation and you like the style of it. So ask me about it. And I gave it to you. So if you're going to punish me, yeah, go for it, man. Punish me. So Zeus, trickster he is, he punished him by hanging him between a mountain, and there's a bird comes up every morning and eats his liver. And that's another story that I'm not going to talk about. But what I want to say here is a lot of art has been talking about this subject, and they're all amazing. It's really beautiful, and there's a lot of inspiration from it. Eventually, I just wanted to represent it, not in a miserable, suffering representation. I wanted to represent, it's a celebration, I would rather to be a rebel than go against everything to understand who I am, rather than just accepting it and being part of the herd. And there's no offense for the people who are part of the herd, because that's their choices, but it's not the choice I want. And if I go out that way in a punishment, I'm more than happy to have that punishment. And in my head, with all of that pain from my liver being eaten every day, I have fireworks coming out, And I have like angry bird. I would imagine that bird when it comes to me as an angry bird. So that's pretty much punishment, which is, I hope you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be really slow, because like moving slowly from this section to that section should be a bit dramatic, because it is when I go away from the Greek mythology and I focus more about the ego again. And the whole point of the ego is that I think it builds up on opportunities and chances. And opportunities and chances, if I can think about it as an artist, how I want to paint it, I would paint it as a window, because personally, it's fucking amazing, because I see things in squares and shapes and triangles. I grew up with this background, I have all of these colors around me in textile family business. I think about stuff in a very weird, odd, disorganized way.
I always struggle to how to put down. If you look at my notes, it's all like kind of scribbles and squares. There's nothing organized. I would like to be, but I'm not. And that's the first time I can apply that with things I love and colours. And then when I wanted to do this one, which was a lot of other paintings before about a subject, I was happy with it, but then it didn't really feel it for me. And then when I started this series, it came out there, and just windows, man. It's everything I think I know. 40 years old now, and I think I'm putting more than that one. Hello. You look very sexy. That's oh, look at his face. Can you see? I can't see you now. So that's where we move again from the windows. So two windows that really affect the way I go through things. It's when I got introduced to Darwin, origin and species kind of theory by accident. And then it really stuck with me that it built up a lot of things. Even my tattoo in my back was based upon it. So I wanted to make a painting about it, and this was an opportunity that I had to do it. And it came out that way. It was like a mad scientist lab that doesn't have any skills of organization. But it's a tree of life from origin species. And that's when I wanted to represent it with the opposite side, which is ego made us all, which is this kind of last chapter in the series of 7. And ego here is, what I want to say here is, the whole thing here that you're seeing today is built up because I want you to hear what I want to say, which is based on satisfying my ego, which is in that way kind of like, the way I see it, I don't think it's really harmful anyway. I don't think there's a problem to know that we have egos that build us, to be remembered, to be seen, to be worth it, to communicate some ideas, which the same as the Greeks. I was talking to Sam earlier, and thank you so much actually for making me remember that point. The whole point that I like the Greeks so much more than anything, they are the first kind of civilization that really turned up the questions of why there is fire to why we think why we have this fire. And they tried to get beyond the understanding of some mythical kind of thing that represented in one person that lead us all, and we follow them and build up massive temples for them and massive tombs, to the idea to understand that we actually can work things together and think about it. And that's all because there's someone who wanted to represent the idea between them, because his ego drove him to the positive side of it. And this painting, I think, is what I want to say from that. It's everything that can make me egotistic and everything that make me humble in the same time. Yeah, I love this piece a lot.
Okay, we've got a question for you actually, Mo.
Yeah, some questions.
Yes.
Yes.
The question is this all acrylic paint?
No, thank you. Actually, thank you for that question. I need to highlight it. So I work mainly with oil colors because I really like the kind of body that they have. But eventually, I started actually experimenting with other material like acrylic, and I do make most of the painting are actually oil on canvas. Some of them without any medium, and then a couple of them have acrylic kind of influence at the end because I'm a self-taught artist and I'm trying to experiment and not corrupt my views about how to use things. I want to learn from it. I try my best to follow the structure of the educational manner. However, sometimes I try to get away from it because I find that when you try by yourself is much better than getting told that this is the way to do it and you ignore the fact that actually the teacher is there to give you their experience and you add to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's a more raw, vulnerable process.
Yeah, so it's more vulnerable process. There is, like as I said, I was talking to you earlier, right? There's a few paintings here that I did remake over 3 times because I could actually learn about it.
Yeah.
And it's, false economics to keep doing it that way. But however, I like that process that I learned from it myself.
Sure.
I think again, go back to the same subject, ego, because it satisfies my ego that I'm actually made that great decision finally to represent myself that way. So I find the whole kind of error and repetition more suitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
So,
What was it?
before we go to jump ask a question, we have one part here.
Thanks, Queenie, for your question.
Who is that?
We've actually got another question as well. That question was from Queenie, so thank you for
We'll
that.
answer that question and then we'll go to the last.
Okay, so the second one is from Stefan, and he says, did you study art or was this something that was organically started? I think you just started to answer that one, but...
Thanks for that. That's, again, that's something I should have presented. Thank you for asking. No, I'm a self-taught artist. I grew up in Cairo, Egypt, and my mom's side of the family, my uncle, who I spent a lot of time with when I was a child, growing to be a teenager, is a full-time artist now. And he had this, he's actually, man, it's really funny that you asked that, because he used to be a general in the army, and then in the early 90s, they took him with few other officers to Korea to study art, and they gave him the opportunity. And he went through it, and he came back, and at that time I was like 11, 12, and then I started like, seeing my uncle changing from that kind of like masculine, army officer that have people like serving you, if you know anything about Egypt and how it works, to that kind of thoughtful, dreamy human being that paint all the time. And his art's fantastic. He's a very well-known artist now back there. But he never really liked my art because I really never liked to represent things as it is. I think it's, I'm not criticizing anything. I think it's not for me. I can do that with a camera, which is an easier tool to use it. But the process of representing art for me now, it's not what it was in the Renaissance area. For me, about what's in here. This is like a Xerox of what I think about. And I'm sharing it with other people. And, of course you have to go for technical issues, which I miss on a lot of time, to the part that's actually a representation of myself. And he never liked that. And that put me away, and I continued with fitness and business development career for 16 years. And 2019, I think I followed my uncle's steps. And I decided to get out of that rat race. And no, I want something much better to make me happier. And I chose to do this. And that's when proudly say I'm a self-taught artist. I just started 2019, which been amazing.
Brilliant, thank you. Any more questions? That's great, Mo, thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question, that was amazing.
There's a couple more, but we can take them.
We'll take them at the end, we'll finish
and then
off.
I'll go to the rest. Oh, that's amazing, this section is like, woohoo. So here the whole story about, sorry about the liver dude and ego, finish. And I added these chapters to it because I wanted to have the series as only 6 to 7 paintings, but in the process there was like why I started it and what made me change that style. If you've been following my work, in the last 3 months I've been like experimenting more and getting more kind of, evolving. I'm becoming a baby. I'm having sandwiches now. I'm not drinking milk anymore. I think. So that was built up by these 2 pieces here. And this one is called Glastonbury 2008 and Social Distancing. And this one is Prometheus. So in January, early January, late December, early January, after the lockdown started to happen, and everyone is struggling and everyone understands that. And I'm pretty sure hundreds of, millions of people had the same thing. I got this block. I couldn't do anything. I was very kind of like, I'm down, man. It's like, am I really doing the right thing? I need to get things happening. I need to be, as an artist, it's a different world. So I tried to reach out to all of my friends. Everyone asked me about painting. I reached out for them just to give me an idea. Of course the financial side of it, but then more importantly, I wanted someone to give me this gift, to get this sketches happening. And I started to connect with people that I missed up contact with for many years. And this was the first really fundamental memory happened to me when I moved to the UK in 2007. I went to Glastonbury in 2008 with this group of people that I never met before, apart from a few times, in a different continent, from a different country. And I had Glastonbury. I don't know, like everyone pretty much knows Glastonbury. So this is Glastonbury.
you mean Glastonbury Festival or Glastonbury Town?
The Glastonbury Festival, man.
Right,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
that is
what Glastonbury Town? Who cares about Glastonbury Town? I'm sorry, guys, from
Some
Glastonbury.
people do.
It's Glastonbury Festival, and that was 2008, and I had this long story I was telling you that, and I can't, for like some kind of social standards reason, I can't say. However, this painting came out, and in this painting, it was an old painting that I was working on for probably a year, and then I did a couple of mistakes, and I had like a couple of knives. I did learn the technique from them, from another person, and bang, 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 and it looked like shit. And I was like, man, that looks really terrible. It's really messy. And I left it, and a few days later when it dried, I was like, oh, I see Kevin there. I see Stretch standing there. I see the lights when I was really massively smashed, waking up at like 9 p.m. and then suddenly there's this massive bright light coming in your face, and this came out. And when this came out, I discovered this technique that I like working with now. And then I go to Hastings because I need to move from the place I was in. And I was tidying up all of my old work, and back in September I did this exhibition about the series called The Reborn, which was me getting out of London. Different story. And there was that one that is called Prometheus. And I was like, you know, light bulb moment. And yeah, let's link it all together and make these paintings. And that's how this too was like chaos and God for all of these guys. And then in the process, you get a lot of ideas. You want to do more stuff. You want to make more paintings. But I want to stick to my plan because you have to deal with it as a business and you have to deal with it as a plan. You have to introduce yourself in an appropriate manner that people can understand and respect. So, fuck that. I'm going to break the rules. But in a way that it can work, right? So I did make these little pieces that someone earlier actually mentioned in the last session that they liked the idea. And it came up with this. So I thought, okay, so if Prometheus is the master artist, the father of us all, that came out and gave us this gift of foresight that we can see in the future, which is a trickster he was, to get Zeus to think that he's punishing him by hanging him on the liver. But yeah, he knew that at some point, and as a Titan, man, their days is like hundreds of years for us. So by the time that we measure the myth of the time that Hercules saved him, it's actually nothing for them. So he's like, oh, Zeus, you want to believe that you are the god of the gods? Here you go, man. I'll stick it up for you. And just think that he's punishing him, but he's not, because Hercules came at the end and cut the chains off. And actually, Prometheus saved Zeus and Zeus' owner by preventing one of the giants to lay with Hera. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get that idea that he thought about if he's really our father, what he's going to teach us as kids. So these little pieces came out. And these little pieces represent what I think is the reason of creativity and ego. So I broke it down to 8 pieces, but unfortunately I have only 3 to show now because the others are not dry yet, last minute disasters. So the first one is creation. And I will let you actually think about what you think that is. And I would love to actually hear comments and questions about it, because this one is actually really kind of a tricky one. And then the forging of equipment that made us have weapons and build houses, have war. And then when it all started, it was Gaia, the mother of us all, the goddess of all gods, which is Earth. In any mythology, it's expressed. And that's where she is, looking over us all the time.
The blue one is Gaia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, the yellow one is creative, the orange one is forging, and the blue one is... I promised someone else, okay, can I do a funny thing, please? Can I do that on video? I promised someone else that is very close to me right now, and probably if they are watching now, this is for you, right? Like when you do like ASMR, have any of you know any about ASMR? It's like, hello, how are you doing now? This is like nightfall. And that's it.
All right, we've got some questions. So,
So there
I'm
was
gonna go
one
there.
more from Stefan.
okay, so we've got another one from Stefan, which was, what is your creative and art background?
Again, Stefan, thank you for the question. It's the same answer as earlier. I grew up with my uncle who changed his career dramatically. I think it's a history repeating himself because he did it when he was 39. I did it when I was 38. So I think I beat him now. If you listen to uncle, no offense. So I was following him, I was looking at his art, and that what created that. And actually, the other influence, which is good part of that question, is where his studio was in Old Cairo. And if you go to Old Cairo, it's where the start and the beginning of Islamic art became really what we know it right now, the arabesque and all of the stars and the molding. And if you don't know why, the artist was really struggling in the Muslim world for a long time to represent their art because it's forbidden to paint figures and all of that. And they came up with, in the Amawite, I believe, and apologize if I'm wrong, with that new style which called the Mamluk, which is the style of Florine kind of art engraved on wood and painted by ink. That is in Old Cairo where my uncle's studio was all of that. And you can see, actually, can I show you an example, please, if you follow me? So this is here, one of the Mamluk structures, which is the artist in the Islamic world in this era representing his art. Okay, I can't paint people. I don't want to be really hard for God and all of that stuff. So I'm going to come up with a new form of art. And that's when this kind of geometrical shapes and artistical thing that you see all over the Muslim world, in any mosque, in any kind of building. It was a revolutionary way of doing art, right?
Yeah.
These guys, while Da Vinci was building up the Renaissance era, they were building that kind of things. And they were very advanced, but I'm not going to drag on that.
Okay.
So I hope that answered it.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is, and this one is from Pat NW. I'm curious if you can picture the final product when you start painting, or is the process a journey of discovery for you?
Oh, high five. Man, this is amazing questions. I love that. Oh, yes. So it's a good question. So in the beginning, I loved just to be organic and just go straight on the canvas. But for some reason, because I just self-taught, again, as I said earlier, I struggled to get what I want straight away, and it was really frustrating. And if you work with oil, it takes so long to dry. And it was really putting me off sometime. And that's when I decided, I had a friend at the time who was an artist, suggested, why don't you sketch first? I started sketching, and I liked it, and I chose this way of sketching with acrylic colors on black, because I see images in a kind of chatted way. I love comics, and I grew up as a kid with comics, and I really want to represent that in my art, so that's when it comes in all of this kind of cutting off. So after that, I just started evolving in that kind of, geometrical way.
Cool, thank you. And I think you might have answered some of this question already, but do you pencil or charcoal this out first? Because acrylics dry so quickly. It's amazing how intricate your designs are.
That's what I said earlier, actually.
Another message that's another one from Stefan. Thank you.
I lost my thoughts for a second, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be polite about it and say that. Anyway, so to keep with the same scenario, so I use in the beginning the process of doing a sketch, and that sketch will help me. I've seen like this documentary about Van Gogh, and I like the way that he used to use in his sketches kind of a line up to follow with X's. And also it reminded me of a good childhood thing that I used to like when I was a kid, color books. So coloring books, I used to like do that. So I do the sketches the same way. I sketch it, and that's what I want this color, that's what I want it to represent. However, and you apply that to the canvas, and it's a really good process because it saves you a lot of time. But then when you start the painting process, because the oil dry, and that's really fucking amazing. I like it to do that to me because it gives me more time to think. I put the painting on the side that I was saying earlier, and I wait for it to dry. And while I'm drying, it's drying not in my studio. It's drying in a living room or somewhere that will get distracted. I will be reading a book. I will be watching a TV show, play PlayStation. But in this kind of distraction moment, I will look at the painting. And then when things come out. So the process is a mix, I think, for me, from preparing what you want to talk about first, as like a business plan, putting it in bullet points. It's very good to be organized. There's no shame about that. And then you have a plan. But as any other plan, it does get screwed up, the same as our first section. And when you have that, you have to be tolerant and flexible. And to be tolerant and flexible, you have to take yourself away from it and look at it from a different perspective. And that's when it comes out. And some other artists will go in and do it and then try to apply it on another kind of like smaller piece and see how it will look like. I hate that. I don't like it because it takes away the originality of it, because I tried. You can try with your brain on the canvas, and that's when you get the process of the trying and errors happening on where you are. But when you have this kind of hints and bits, I find that take away from me that feeling that this is a baby, man, giving birth to it. is organised. We know it's 9 months. We know that there is epidural shit. You know, they have this breathing thing which is amazing. I do it with my ex. It's really high as shit. We have all of this process, but then in the last moment it can go fucking wrong, and you have to repeat it all again. There is some education behind it, which is very legitimate, which where you do the sketching, and there is the creative process of a human being that bringing that out. Yeah, I might pull it that way. I might pull it this way. Just be flexible, man.
Yeah.
I think that's what art is. Be flexible. Yeah, I feel very articulate when I say that. So it's really weird because I'm not wearing my lab coat. Like, anyway, no one knows that.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
We've got one more from Queenie.
Okay,
Hi, Queenie.
another one from Queenie. Thank you. So,
Thank you so much, guys, for watching this.
Queenie is asking you, do you host painting sessions?
No, I haven't. I haven't done that. I have done it with like a few friends when we like really drunk and trying to find something to do. Apart from that, I didn't. I don't know, man. I don't know what to teach. Yeah. I'm learning myself. I don't think. I think I'm over the ability of teaching. I'm now more of acceptance in my journey that I want to learn. And you know, at some point, if it comes in and feel like I have some knowledge that can be shared, I'll be able to. But unfortunately, at the moment, I don't think I'm able to explain how this come out. Because as you can see, this is like our pilot of doing it. And I'm kind of like have a whole plan for what we're doing now. And still, I'm going through it, I'm fixing it and upgrading it. How can I tell someone this is knowledge without me knowing it on my own? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So another question from Stefan, which is, what drew you to very vibrant colours? I tend to shy away from them, but I love them so much.
It's, man, okay, thank you again for the question. Man, you're really good with square. Have you prepared that? Is it PR team paying you, Stefan? No? We don't have a PR team. However, so I said that, I think in the last session. That side of the family was in a lot of businesses, and one of the businesses that my dad was constantly in when I was a child, and I lived a very short childhood with my dad. It's textile. So the factory that he was spending most of his time in, where his office is when they change the sheets of the cotton, the white one, to the colors that would be used for whatever material it is. So I literally was surrounded by like this massive machine that is so noisy as hell. But yeah, it comes up with it, and everything around it is dirty, man. It was oil printing, which you can see it in my art. But then in the middle, there was this beautiful sheets of colors that coming out between it, and it was amazing colors, man. Like, I don't know what they were doing with it. There was like the feeling of my knives, the palette knife.